Shalom Aleichem to everyone watching. This is Rabbi Moshe Otero, and I want to continue with our next chapter in the series that we've been doing, Letters for the Ages, based on the Ramban and Nachmanides work. And we're looking at chapter 19, which would be the 19th video of the same series, of course dedicated to my children, Mayor David, and also Joshua and David Joseph. And we read in chapter 19, "Let your head be bowed, cast your eyes downward, and your heart heavenward." Statement has its original meaning and statement in Yevamot 105b. When praying, one should train his eyes to look downward, as it is written, "My eyes and my heart shall be there at all times." 1 Kings chapter 9, verse 3. Likewise, he should focus his heart heavenward, as it is written, "Let us lift our hearts with our hands to God in the heavens." Lamentation chapter 3, verse 41. Frailty and grandeur are the two eyes of man. When prayer experiences truly becomes an encounter with God, and the supplicant finds himself gripped in completely contradictory emotions. On the one hand, the mortal who stands before the King of Kings is overwhelmed by awe. As he confronts the unutterable majesty of his Creator, he has no choice but to recoil in trepidation. Simultaneously, however, a different feeling begins to swell in his heart as the worshipper intuits the almost tangible closeness of his Heavenly Father. He is overcome by a sense of boundless love. His heart leaps for joy and completely thrilled at the opportunity to communicate directly and personally with the eternal Master of the universe. To pray effectively, the worshipper must strike a delicate balance between these opposing emotions and moods, and blending to the two in a state of mental harmony. And reflecting upon this dichotomy, Rav Yisrael of the Koltenitzer Magid allegorically explained why God chose to create man with two eyes to symbolize the man ought to have two sorts of visions. With one eye, look upwards. With the other, he gazed downward. Contemporary terms, with one of his eyes, his vision, lacks the depth of perspective, and with it he would gaze at the cosmos around him, feeling dwarfed by its vastness. He may stare into the mirror of his likeness and recognizing only frailty. With the other eye, though man gains perspective, he perceives the presence of the Almighty and is inspired to stand erect. Although he can see with only one eye, he needs both of his eyes to fully understand the true path of his surrounding. And we see this also in Avodat Israel Parashat Mishpatim. Now approaching the celestial throne. In his commentary to Berachot, Rabbeinu Yonah describes the process of developing a proper mental state for prayer. His advice is based on the same excerpts of the Talmud referred to the above of the Ramban. When a person prays, he must visualize himself as standing before the celestial throne. This is impossible as long as he has weighed down many mundane affairs in his mind and his heart, financial worries, business problems, and the like, and therefore, before praying, he must look downward to discard all of the earthly concerns. Earlier generations had the saying for this: if you wish to concentrate on your prayers, first you must strip your soul of your body. Only then can you train your heart to be released to a light heavenward. The statement of posture, one's mannerism reflects, in a certain extent, determine his more deeply hidden emotions and thoughts. The Talmud in Kiddushin 31a teaches that it's prohibited to walk 4 cubits with an upright posture which displays arrogance. The Talmud cites the verse, "The entire world is filled with the glory of God," or God's glory, Isaiah chapter 3, verse 3, as a source of its ruling. And likewise, the Rambam in Hilchot Deot, chapter 5, verse 8, writes that men of true stature, as a rule, refrains from walking completely erect. Rather, a wise man should always cast his eyes downward like a person standing in prayer. An erect posture, however, is only the external indication of an internal feeling. The tone of man's relationship with God is determined more than anything else by his heart. It is indeed possible for one to stand ramrod straight and yet assume an internal posture of complete surrender to his Creator's will. It was this the practice of Harav Moshe Feinstein, to stand motionless and perfectly erect while reciting Shemoneh Esrei, except when it required to bow. An explanation he once related that when the Russian communists held him for interrogation concerning the involvement in his religious activities, he had been forced to stand rigidly at attention. While menacing guards stood watch, never, Rav Moshe related, that he felt so subservient. It was at this point that he decided that from this unflinching position he would recite the Shemoneh Esrei and demonstrate his subservience to the true ruler, God above. The significance of dust. Throughout the generations, holy men have found it helpful to keep their eyes trained downward. Reshit Chochmah, Sha'ar HaKedusha, chapter 8, verse 18 writes, when a person stares down at the earth, he reminds himself that he is, after all, nothing more than dust, and that he shall return to the dust. In this way he will not be seduced to pursue fleeting desires of this world. Pele Yoetz Reish explains that one weakens his desire for the material things by looking at the dust, the meager basis for all physical, to the extent that thereby increases his striving for the world of the spiritual. And the author adds, will one's prayer truly be answered as it says, Rashach Anenim Yosheah, he who casts his eyes downward will be saved, as it says in Job chapter 22, verse 29. So remember in our chapter 19 the importance to have your head bowed and cast your eyes downward while your heart is pushed forward heavenward. Shalom, shalom, and wish all of you a wonderful Shabbat Shalom.